Welcome to r/Maliciouscompliance, where Grandma strips down to her underwear. Our next Reddit post is from Affectionate Damage. This is a story from my mom and grandma. Quite a while ago, both my mom and grandmother worked for one of the local casinos. At the time, the casino had a 90-day trial, and then you would get insurance. While both of them were working there during the 90-day trial, the casino switched their policy to an 18-month trial before getting insurance. Then, the casino found all these BS reasons to fire their employees who were coming up on their 90 days so that they wouldn't be grandfathered in. My mom knew that this was coming because she saw person after person getting fired for ridiculous reasons. So, when she got called into the office the day after she had to go to the hospital for a severe allergic reaction, she knew what was coming. They had marked it as a no-call, no-show because she started having a severe allergic reaction on her shift and her EpiPen didn't work. She walks into the office and she's told that due to her no-call, no-show, she's being let go effective immediately. So she asked for her final check. They informed her that she would receive the check after she turned in her uniform. My mother proceeded to strip down to her underwear and bra, drop the uniform on the supervisor's desk, and demand her last check. She stood there, in her underwear, for 40 minutes while they tried to convince her to turn the uniform in at a later day. Nope, you said I'd get my check when I turned in my uniform. There's my uniform, I want my check. Eventually, they wrote out a check. She then walked out, taking the long route through the casino, saying her goodbyes to the staff and the regulars on her way out. So a couple of days later, when my grandma had her shift, she knew what to expect. And my grandma proceeded to do the exact same thing. My grandma walked through a crowded casino in her underwear. The funny joke that your mom and grandma could have said when leaving was, "I lost everything at this casino. Look, they even took my clothes." Our next Reddit post is from Ghost Alice. A Karen neighbor of mine complained that my roommate and I park in the same parking spot, which is right next to the walkway up to the apartment building. Both of us ride motorcycles, and both motorcycles belong to me, but my roommate rides one to get to work. The Karen accused me of using my second bike to get a de facto reserved parking spot when nobody in the complex has one, and said that what I'm doing isn't fair and that it's cheating. I said, okay, I'll stop parking both my bikes in one spot. She seemed satisfied with that and left. An hour later, I had all 7 of my motorcycles. I got 5 of them from the garage that I rent halfway across the apartment complex, now sitting in front of the apartment building, taking up every prime parking space in front of the walkway to the hall of my building. The Karen went straight to management to complain. Management came out and knocked on my door. They said, "We can't have you using up every parking space." I said, "Let me guess." Karen complained. "Yes. Yeah, she told me that I'm not allowed to have 2 bikes in one parking space because she thinks that I'm reserving a space. But I'm not doing it to reserve a space. Both my roommate and I ride both the bikes that we park in that one space. All the bikes belong to me, but I gave the keys to one of them to my roommate to ride for commuting to work. The other one is my daily bike. We both park in one spot just to be nice and to conserve parking spaces so that other people have somewhere to park. I was just showing Karen what would happen if I'm only allowed 1 bike per parking space. The other 5 bikes are generally in another parking space, in my garage where I keep the bikes that I don't ride frequently. The apartment manager said, "I understand. You made your point and I'll talk to her. Just please put the other 5 bikes back in the garage." "No problem," I said. It's been a few weeks and I haven't heard from Karen yet. Down in the comments, we have a similar story from Highkin Geek. A while ago, San Francisco was trying to increase revenue from parking meters downtown. So they passed an ordinance saying only 1 motorcycle could be in each space on the street, instead of doubling, tripling, or quadrupling up as was normal. So the bikers coordinated to bring all their bikes downtown on the same busy weekday, and they each took up 1 space, filling up every single space in the downtown area for miles around. As you can imagine, it was chaos because none of the car drivers could find street parking and had to opt for much more expensive garages and/or driving around hours looking for a space. Needless to say, the ordinance was repealed. Our next Reddit post is from Zero Mig. This didn't happen to me, but to a coworker, Alex. We worked for a chain of English language schools in Japan, and if you're a substitute, you're likely to be dispatched in many different directions to various schools. One day, Alex was riding the train when he received an international call from his family. The call lasted only a moment, but he didn't realize there was a student on the same train who recognized him and was offended by the conversation. It's not illegal to talk on your phones while on trains in Japan, but it's considered bad form and a faux pas. Anyway, the student complained to school staff, without saying anything to Alex himself, and word eventually made its way back to personnel at headquarters. Now, the personnel coordinator at the time was a dick, and he decided to flex his managerial muscles. Rather than sending a simple email asking Alex to refrain from using the phone, he called Alex in on his day off, talked to him for a great deal longer than was necessary, and made Alex write 2 statements. One, a letter to the unknown student apologizing for the incident, and a promise that would go into his personnel files saying that he'd never answer his phone on the train again. Fast forward a couple of months, and Alex, now working as a substitute teacher, takes the train to his normal school, where he'd be stationed in case of emergencies. The train arrives and he steps aboard, but then he gets a call. Caller ID shows that it's his boss, and the only reason they'd call him at this time is if an emergency arose, and he needs to get to another school ASAP. Alex ignores the call and enjoys the 40-minute train ride to his base school, while on the clock with a nap. When he gets off the train, he calls back his boss, who's livid and demands to know why he wasn't answering his phone. "Why, Mr. Boss, you told me to never answer my phone on the train, and I would never think of contradicting you. You made me promise, after all," Alex says. There's an angry silence and a gnashing of teeth on the other end of the call, with his boss probably holding back an angry tirade. "Just get on the damn train and get back here. We need you at such and such school," and he hangs up. That school was 40 minutes back the way that Alex came from, plus another 20 minutes on top of that. Alex shrugged and grabbed the next returning train, where I like to imagine he enjoyed another good nap while on the company clock. Our next Reddit post is from Manglewood. Around 2008, I was a radiology assistant in a mammography unit, meaning I was the person who ushered in patients, showing them where to put their belongings, give them their gown and their instructions. Another part of my job was keeping the radiology station clean and tidy so that work surfaces were clear and sanitary. Around that same time, the book The Secret came out, and it was huge, and my coworkers were way into it. For those who don't know, it's a ridiculous pseudoscientific method pushed by Oprah Winfrey that promises you can get whatever you want simply by visualizing and asking the universe for it. The ugly side of this fairy tale thinking is that if bad things happen to you, it's your fault because you invited it by putting bad energy out into the universe. I found it wildly inappropriate that healthcare professionals believed that breast cancer victims had caused their own cancers through negative thinking. I fought with a few of the radiology techs about it, but I was completely outnumbered, so I tried to just keep my head down, focus on the patients, and do my job, which included tidying up their Oprah Winfrey magazines, secret books, and other secret-related materials that they would leave strewn all over the counters. Since they all hated me for not being in their The Secret clique, they decided to gang up on me and go to the managers with complaints about my attitude. I was called out of work into a disciplinary ambush meeting where I explained my side of things. One of the higher-up managers totally agreed with me and actually defended me. But at the conclusion of the meeting, I was told not to touch anyone else's stuff because there were complaints that I was shoving magazines into corners and that I threw away someone's copy of The Secret. I really wish that I had, but actually I didn't do that. It was a complete lie. So, by complaining about me, my idiotic coworkers effectively took away part of my job, which was cleaning up after them. I was no longer allowed to touch their magazines, so the magazines piled up 2 inches deep on every surface. Plus empty bottles, yogurt containers, used napkins, cafeteria trays, popcorn detritus, and all sorts of other trash. The workstation looked like a landfill. The other workers were absolutely seething about it and glaring at me, but I would just sit there reading, happily doing absolutely nothing about it since I wasn't allowed to touch their stuff. Our next Reddit post is from Mr. Dirtpastic. My dad gets sent on business trips fairly often. As with most business trips, all of his expenses are covered. When he has to spend money during the trip on things that can't be paid in advance, he gets reimbursed by the company when he gets back and lets them know what he spent and what he spent it on. This is just stuff like the hotel, food, and transportation. During one of those trips, he was staying in a Swiss hotel, taking a plane back home the next morning. As he leaves the workplace, they ask him if they should order him a taxi for the next morning to get to the airport, which is about 50 kilometers away. My dad replies that it's like a 5-minute walk from his hotel to the train station, so he'll just take a train to the airport instead. He does so, and a few days later, he gets a call from whatever finance department handles repaying expenses. They ask him if he got a receipt for his train ticket, because otherwise they can't cover it. My dad replies that he only has the actual train ticket, which has the price on it, but that's all he has. You just buy the ticket at a machine in the station, and all you get is the ticket. There's no receipt. So the lady on the phone tells him they can't pay him the cost because he doesn't have a receipt. So a few days later, he's back in the exact same spot, and when his boss asks him if he's going to take the train again, my dad goes, "No can do. I don't get a receipt that way. Order me a taxi." So the next morning, he goes on a fairly long taxi drive to the airport. And fun fact, Swiss taxi rides are incredibly expensive. Once again, a few days after he's back, he gets a call from the finance department. They're asking, what the hell is this €200 charge? And why did he have to spend so much on travel this time? My dad simply replied, "Well, last time I took the train, but you didn't want to reimburse my ticket because I didn't have a receipt. So this time I took a taxi, but don't worry, I made sure to get a receipt this time. So there should be no problem with paying me back for this, right?" They accepted because technically there was nothing they could do. The expense was necessary and he had a receipt proving it. Later that day, they informed my dad that in the future, he was allowed to use the train if it was cheaper, and he would only need to provide them with a train ticket. Our next Reddit post is from Defiant Lion. "So I am a fiend for Excel spreadsheets. I absolutely love them, and I even bought an extra-wide monitor for home so that I can see them in all their glory. My boss keeps telling me that she's an advanced Excel user who can run macros, do pivot tables, and knows formulas. But not once have I seen her create or manipulate a spreadsheet in the 6 months that I've worked for her. So I had a template on our Teams chat that we used every week. It was automated to within an inch of its life to tell us about the company's health. We've been using it for the last 4 months after I was given approval by the boss to make it live. I gave her a tutorial and everything. It took me about 6 hours of work a week having to set it up like that. Well, the boss told me to take it down because a different department, who hadn't even seen it, was worried about personal data when one of their admins told them about it. But there wasn't any personal data on there, and anything that isn't open access is password hidden anyways. So my boss orders me to take it down and delete it, and just run a fresh one for anyone who wants it. I tried to explain that there wasn't any sort of personal or private data on it. But nope, I got told to delete it. I tried to explain that the company uses this spreadsheet multiple times a day, every day. Nope, delete it. So I deleted it. The fallout? Well, cue today. My boss tells me that she has a meeting with the big bosses and she's presenting figures to the executives tomorrow. She starts quoting figures that are wildly inaccurate. I question where these numbers came from, and she showed me a terrible report that said the opposite of what she actually thought. This report was run by someone who's not even in our department. I tell her the actual accurate numbers, and I show her the screenshots of the original spreadsheet for proof. She asks me for access to that spreadsheet, and I tell her it's been deleted. I explained why, and I even showed the meeting notes where she had approved its use after viewing it. She denied any knowledge of that, but she still wants the spreadsheet back. I said that it would take me 2 to 3 days to remake it again due to my workload increases. Actually, I had saved a copy of the original template, but there is no way that I'm telling her that. This will give me some breathing room to get the backlog out of my queue while she thinks that I'm working on this spreadsheet. I'll let her sweat through that executive meeting knowing that every figure is wrong and that no one is saving her butt in this team anymore. Oh, down in the comments, I love this line from Captain Baobao. I've never heard this before. Arrogance and incompetence often travel in the same sinking boat. That was r/Maliciouscompliance, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.